Forget what you think you know about British crime films. It's not just about sharp suits, clever banter, or posh detectives sipping tea. Lurking just out of sight are thrillers so raw, inventive, and criminally overlooked that even the most devoted movie fans have missed them. Why did these wild stories get buried? Who decided these gripping gems didn't deserve the spotlight? Stick around, because we're opening the vault on 15 British crime thrillers that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. The Squeeze 1977. Let's kick things off in the gutter, where the real stories start. The Squeeze isn't about a slick heist or a debonair lead pulling off one last job. No, this is British crime stripped to the bone, grimy as a back alley pub at closing time. Stacey Keach plays Jim Naboth, a once-respected cop whose best days are a distant memory, now stumbling through life with a bottle in his hand and regret etched into every line on his face. When his ex-wife and her new lover are snatched by a gang of ruthless kidnappers, Naboth gets dragged back into the chaos, only this time, he's got nothing to lose. Forget any ideas about redemption or glory. The Squeeze pulls you through the dark side of London. Grimy flats, smoky bars, rain-soaked streets, and corners where hope is just a rumor. Director Michael Apted doesn't shy away from the violence or the emotional wreckage. Every punch lands with real weight. Naboth is no superhero. He's barely holding it together, flailing through one desperate move after another. But that's what makes this film stick in your memory. It's all so raw, so vulnerable, so much closer to real life than the polished gangster flicks that usually grab the headlines. Watch Keach in action, and you'll see a man unraveling, scrambling for any scrap of dignity. The supporting cast, including Edward Fox as a by-the-book inspector and David Hemmings as a smooth-talking criminal, add layers of tension and grit. There's a car chase through the heart of London that feels like it's fueled by sheer panic, not adrenaline. The violence isn't just for show. It's a symptom of a world gone off the rails. Why didn't this one become a classic? Maybe it was too real, too unglamorous, too unwilling to give viewers what they expected. But that's exactly what makes The Squeeze one of the most underrated British crime thrillers out there. It's a shot of cold truth in a genre built on fantasy. And it'll leave you wondering why we ever preferred the fairy tales. Sitting Target, 1972. Oliver Reed never played it safe, and in Sitting Target, he's at his most ferocious. This is not your average escape movie. Reed is Harry Lomart, a hard-as-nails convict who isn't plotting freedom for freedom's sake. He's consumed by one thing: revenge. His wife, played with haunted strength by Jill Saint. John has betrayed him, and Lomart's single-minded rage is more dangerous than any cell block. The setup is simple. Lomart and his partner, played by Ian McShane, bust out of prison with military precision. But what follows isn't a chase. It's a slow-burn spiral into obsession. The streets of London in this film aren't just a backdrop. They're a character, alive with grime, neon, and an undercurrent of fear. Director Douglas Hickox keeps the tension wound so tight you can almost hear it humming. Every encounter, every corner turned, every decision feels like it could explode into chaos at any second. What sets Sitting Target apart is its refusal to sugarcoat. Lomart is not a hero. There's nothing charming about him, and the violence is never fun. The film's action scenes are brutal, sudden, and messy, more like real life than a movie. Even the quieter moments are loaded with dread. Reed's performance is pure menace, but also tragedy. This is a man broken beyond repair, driven by hurt instead of hope. You'll find no slick one-liners or clever escapes here. Instead, you get the raw energy of two desperate men tearing up London on a mission nobody should cheer for. The film takes its time, letting you sit with the discomfort, the moral grayness, the bitter taste of vengeance gone rotten. Jill St. John's character is no damsel. She's tangled in guilt, fear, and her own desperate attempts to survive. Why was this one buried by time? Maybe it was too relentless, too bleak, too honest about the cost of revenge. Or maybe it just didn't have the glossy finish audiences wanted in their crime stories. Either way, Sitting Target is a gut punch that lingers. If you think you know Oliver Reed, or British crime thrillers in general, this one will change your mind and make you double-lock your doors. Villain, 1971. If you think British gangsters are all charm and cheek, Villain is here to knock the rose-tinted glasses clean off your face. Richard Burton, usually known for Shakespeare and tortured romantics, flips the script as Vic Dakin, a ruthless London crime boss who'd eat Tommy Shelby for breakfast and use James Bond as a dartboard. There's no glamour, no excuses, and certainly no mercy in Dakin's world. This film isn't a love letter to the criminal underworld. It's a signed confession, splattered with blood and betrayal. Set against a cold, unfriendly London, Villain pulls you into the rotten heart of a criminal empire. Dakin rules by fear and violence, his empire held together with intimidation, and a crew of men who'd sell out their own mothers if the price was right. Burton is mesmerizing. His performance practically crackles with menace. He doesn't play the gangster as a misunderstood anti-hero, but as a ticking time bomb. His relationships are just as twisted as his business deals. Watch for the scenes with Ian McShane as his closest confidant. There's a tension in their exchanges that goes way beyond the criminal. But what really sets Villain apart is its refusal to let anyone off the hook. There are no innocent bystanders in this world. Everyone's compromised. Everyone's in too deep. The cops are as calculating as the crooks, and the violence, raw, messy, and shockingly abrupt, lands with a jolt. Forget slick, stylized fights or comic book bravado. When punches are thrown in Villain, you feel every single one. The script is sharp, the pacing relentless, and there's not a wasted second. You'll find yourself rooting for Dakin 1 minute and recoiling the next, and that's the genius of it. Villain doesn't care if you're comfortable. It wants you unsettled. Maybe that's why it was overlooked. Maybe audiences wanted a gangster with swagger, not one with scars and real stakes. But if you're looking for a crime film that bites back, Villain is the one they should have warned you about. It's nasty, it's smart, and it sticks to you like cheap cologne after a long night out. The Reckoning, 1969. Some revenge stories are about justice. The Reckoning is about rage, the kind that simmers beneath the surface for years, waiting for the smallest spark to explode. Nicole Williamson delivers a masterclass in controlled fury as Michael Marler, a Liverpool-born executive who's clawed his way into the upper echelons of London business. When word comes that his father has died under suspicious circumstances, Marler ditches the boardroom for the back streets, swapping tailored suits for working-class anger. What follows isn't just a hunt for answers. It's a deep dive into class resentment, family wounds, and the cost of running from your own past. Marler's journey back to Liverpool is like opening an old wound. Every conversation, every grimy pub, every stone-faced relative reminds him of the man he used to be and the life he left behind. Williamson plays Marler with a mix of sharp intellect and barely contained violence. You get the sense he's holding back a tidal wave with a single fraying rope. Director Jack Gold keeps the tension tight. The city itself is a character, gray, unforgiving, and always watching. The film isn't flashy. There's no big shootout or high-octane car chase, just the slow, relentless build of a man piecing together the truth and deciding what kind of justice he can stomach. The Reckoning is more psychological than physical, but the threat of violence is always just a heartbeat away. What makes this film so haunting isn't just the murder mystery. It's the way Marler is forced to confront his own choices. In the end, the reckoning isn't just with his father's killers, but with himself. Maybe that's why this film slipped under the radar. It doesn't offer easy answers or simple victories. Instead, it's a reminder that you can't outrun your past, and sometimes the real crime is what you leave behind. For anyone tired of crime thrillers that play it safe, The Reckoning is a sharp, bitter pill, and all the better for it. Payroll 1961. Want a heist movie that actually feels dangerous? Payroll doesn't just flirt with risk. It takes it home and marries it. This gritty black and white thriller puts the glamour of robbery straight through a shredder and scatters the pieces across the industrial landscape of northern England. When a gang of criminals sets their sights on a payroll van, they think they're in for a quick score. What they get is a domino effect of betrayal, double crosses, and violence that leaves no one untouched. The cast is a who's who of British character actors, each one more desperate than the last. Michael Craig is the reluctant driver, William Lucas is the cold-eyed mastermind, and Tom Bell plays the ticking time bomb, ready to snap the second things don't go his way. But it's not just about the crooks. The film follows the aftermath of the heist from every angle, pulling in wives, police, and innocent bystanders, each dragged deeper into the mess. Director Sidney Hayers strips the story down to its essentials. No flashy set pieces or over-the-top dialogue. Everything here feels real, from the tight claustrophobic interiors to the bleak, rain-soaked streets. The violence is sudden and nasty. The betrayals sting, and no one gets a clean getaway. Even the plan itself feels rickety, built on equal parts bravado and blind hope. What really sets Payroll apart is its moral ambiguity. There are no heroes here, just people making choices. Some smart, most disastrous. As the bodies pile up and loyalties crumble, you realize this isn't a heist movie where the crooks ride off into the sunset. Instead, Payroll is about the slow, grinding fallout when a perfect plan goes completely sideways. It's the kind of film that makes you check your locks before bed and think twice about trusting your friends. If you want your crime thrillers with teeth, this one will leave a mark. The Long Good Friday, 1980. You think you've seen gangster movies? The Long Good Friday takes the whole genre, drags it into the East End, and then sets it on fire. Bob Hoskins delivers a performance that's pure dynamite as Harold Shand, a London mob boss with big dreams of going legitimate. He's not just another thug, he's a visionary, a businessman, a kingpin who wants to swap blood money for boardrooms. But the gods of crime don't hand out promotions so easily. And when a series of mysterious attacks upend Harold's empire, everything he's built starts to crumble overnight. Director John Mackenzie paints London as a city on the brink, dirty, pulsating, full of secrets. The action here isn't about shootouts for the sake of excitement. It's about the suffocating tension of a man realizing his world is turning against him. Every phone call could be bad news, every ally could be a traitor, and every shadow could be the end. The violence erupts suddenly, and it's always personal. There's a car bomb scene that will rattle your nerves, and Hoskins' face, tight, furious, desperate, says more in one glare than most actors can with a monologue. But what really sticks is how The Long Good Friday refuses to play by the rules. This isn't a story about honor among thieves or a code of the underworld. It's about survival, about ambition running up against the reality that someone always wants your crown. Helen Mirren is equally magnetic as Harold's clever partner. Never just the woman behind the man, but the brains keeping him 2 steps ahead. Why was this a hidden gem for so long? Maybe it hit too close to home for the era. London's underbelly wasn't just movie fiction. It was in the news. Or maybe it's just that Hoskins plays Harold so ruthlessly human that audiences couldn't decide if they wanted him to win or fall. One thing's certain. By the time you hit the legendary closing shot, you'll never forget the name Harold Shand, or the look on his face when the music finally stops. The Criminal, 1960. Step aside, smooth-talking masterminds. The Criminal is here to drag you into the real, sweaty, desperate heart of the British prison system. Before he made car chases famous in The Italian Job, Stanley Baker turned the crime genre upside down with this ferocious, unsparing tale of betrayal and survival. Baker plays Johnny Banyan, a tough con with a plan. He's just out of prison, but not for long because the biggest job of his life is waiting. It's a classic setup. Get the gang together, pull the job, and get out clean. But nothing in The Criminal is ever that clean. Director Joseph Luzzi transforms the prison into a claustrophobic nightmare, filled with codes, power struggles, and alliances as flimsy as a matchstick bridge. Banyan's heist is just the beginning. The real story is what happens after, as he's sucked back behind bars and surrounded by enemies on all sides. The tension is constant. Every conversation could be a setup. Every meal could be your last. And there's nowhere to run except deeper into the mess. What makes The Criminal so essential and so overlooked is its sheer brutality. There are no easy outs, no clever escapes, and no one who comes out spotless. Baker's Banyan is neither villain nor hero. He's a survivor in a world where trust gets you killed. The supporting cast is a roll call of British grit, and the violence, when it comes, is sudden and shocking, not played for style, but for consequence. It's easy to see why this one slipped through the cracks. It's a relentless watch, dark, bleak, and deeply cynical about justice and the people who claim to uphold it. But if you want to see where modern British crime thrillers got their edge, look no further. The Criminal is where the myth ends and the real trouble begins. Croupier 1998. Before the world knew Clive Owen as the stoic, brooding lead in Hollywood blockbusters, he was the ice-cold heart of Croupier, a crime film that slips past your defenses with the charm of a card shark and the bite of a back-alley mugging. This isn't about the crooks in the alley. It's about the ones dressed in tuxedos, waiting behind the green bays for their next victim. Owen's Jack Manfred is a struggling writer turned casino croupier, lured into a world where luck is just another illusion and everyone's got something to hide. What makes Croupier a true hidden gem is its slow burn style. Director Mike Hodges keeps things taut and controlled, giving us a narrator who's as unreliable as he is fascinating. Jack tells us he's just an observer, just a man spinning the wheel, but as the criminal plot thickens and the bodies start dropping, you realize he's in deeper than he thinks. The casino is a perfect metaphor, glamorous on the outside, but full of predators circling the tables. Every character is playing their own angle: Jack's girlfriend, the mysterious gambler who tempts him, the shadowy figures behind the scenes. There's no clear right or wrong, just people betting their lives and hoping the odds don't turn. The tension comes not from gunfights, but from silent stares, and the threat that everything could come undone with a single bad call. Why didn't Croupier blow up? Maybe because it's too quiet, too smart, and way too honest about how easy it is to lose your soul in the pursuit of a quick win. Or maybe it's because Owen makes you root for a man who's not quite a villain, not quite a hero, just another player, and maybe the most dangerous of them all. In the end, Croupier is a crime thriller for anyone who's ever wondered if the real game is happening just out of sight. Go ahead, place your bets. Get Carter, 1971. You've probably heard the name, but unless you've actually sat through Get Carter with the lights down and your phone switched off, you haven't felt the real chill of British crime cinema. Michael Caine is Jack Carter, a London gangster who returns to his gritty northern hometown for his brother's funeral and finds a mess that smells worse than the docks. Carter isn't there for closure. He's not there to pay respects. He wants answers, and he'll tear the city to shreds to get them. Director Mike Hodges doesn't pull any punches, and neither does Caine. There's nothing soft about this film. The violence is sudden, the threats are real, and the bodies, literal and emotional, pile up fast. Forget the fast-talking, charming crook with a heart of gold. Carter is a shark, moving forward with ruthless determination, and heaven help anyone in his way. Every pub, every rain-soaked alley, every desperate phone call ratchets up the tension. This is not a world where anyone gets a second chance. What makes Get Carter so essential and so quietly radical is its refusal to dress up the ugly truth. There are no glamorous villains or cartoonish henchmen. Everyone's desperate, everyone's got secrets, and everyone pays for them. Hodges shoots Newcastle like it's a war zone, bleak, gray, and unforgiving. The soundtrack pulses with paranoia, the dialogue stings, and Caine gives one of the most chilling performances of his career. Why did this film slip under so many radars for years? Maybe because it hits too close to home. Maybe it's the cold, clear-eyed honesty about what crime and revenge really cost. Or maybe it's just too uncomfortably real for people who like their heroes lovable. Either way, Get Carter isn't just a British classic. It's a gut punch that'll leave you breathless long after the credits roll. The Offense, 1973. Ready for a detective story that will shake you to the core? The Offense does something most crime films are too scared to try. It turns the spotlight away from the criminal and shines it on the cop until every flaw, every crack, every dark thought is impossible to ignore. Sean Connery, tossing aside every trace of Bond's suaveness, is Detective Johnson, a man hunting down a child predator, but haunted by the monsters inside his own mind. Sidney Lumet directs with icy precision. This is a psychological thriller with a fuse that burns slow and hot. The interrogation scenes are so tense you'll find yourself holding your breath. Johnson isn't a hero, and The Offense doesn't give you anyone to cheer for. Instead, it drags you through the muck of guilt, rage, and the cost of seeing too much for too long. Connery's performance is volcanic, boiling over with rage and self-loathing in equal measure. What makes this film unforgettable is its refusal to flinch. There are no clear answers, no easy redemption. Every character is tainted, and the real horror is that the line between good and evil gets blurrier with every minute. The cinematography is claustrophobic, the score haunting, and the ending leaves you rattled. So, why did this one fall through the cracks? It's tough, it's uncomfortable, and it never lets you off the hook. But if you want to see crime cinema at its most fearless and Connery at his most unguarded, The Offense is a test you won't soon forget. Mona Lisa, 1986. Mona Lisa is what happens when a crime thriller falls in love with a broken heart and decides to drag you along for the ride. Bob Hoskins, who made tough guy roles his calling card, is George, a small-time crook just out of prison, doing favors for the wrong people and driving high-class call girl Simone around London's underworld. But don't expect a standard chauffeur story. What unfolds is part love story, part nightmare, and all danger. Neil Jordan directs with a romantic's eye and a realist's punch. Every scene drips with tension, neon, and regret. Simone, played with icy poise by Kathy Tyson, is far from the cliché damsel in distress. She's running her own game, with secrets stacked higher than the city skyline. George is in way over his head, and his clumsy attempts at chivalry keep colliding with the brutality of the world he's wandered back into. What makes Mona Lisa so unforgettable isn't just the plot. It's the way the film captures longing and loneliness, even as the bullets fly and the betrayals stack up. Hoskins gives a performance that's all raw nerve and bruised hope, while Michael Caine lurks in the background as a crime boss so cold he makes the Thames look inviting. The film is violent, yes, but every punch lands on an emotional level too. Maybe Mona Lisa got lost in the shuffle because it doesn't fit the mold. It's too vulnerable to be a standard gangster flick, too ruthless to be a love story, and far too honest about the cost of crossing those lines. But for anyone who's ever felt lost in the middle of someone else's story, this is a crime thriller that hits home. Defense of the Realm, 1985. Defense of the Realm is what happens when political scandal meets pure, unfiltered paranoia. Forget safe streets and shady alleys. This thriller dives into the smoky backrooms of British power, where the stakes are secrets, and the only thing more dangerous than the enemy is the truth itself. Gabriel Byrne plays Nick Mullen, a journalist who stumbles onto a cover-up that's way above his pay grade. A story about government, spies, and lies that might just get him killed. Director David Drury ramps up the suspense with a clinical eye. The city is all gray concrete and shadowy corners. The mood, pure dread. Every time Mullen thinks he's ahead, the ground shifts beneath him. Friends become enemies, allies vanish, and the only thing more slippery than the government story is the sense that you're always being watched. It's the kind of film where even the quiet moments feel loaded, like a bomb waiting to go off. What makes Defense of the Realm stand out is how it makes paranoia feel justified. There's no knight in shining armor, no moment when the system redeems itself. The journalism feels gritty and authentic. The danger is real, and the ending is a gut punch that refuses to tie things up with a bow. Why did this one end up a hidden gem? Maybe it was too political for its time. Maybe audiences didn't want to believe the people in charge could be so ruthless. Or maybe it just slipped between the cracks of bigger, louder conspiracy movies. But if you want your crime thrillers with a side of cold sweat and suspicion, this is the film you've been searching for. The Black Windmill, 1974. There are thrillers that run on adrenaline and thrillers that run on pure icy tension. The Black Windmill is both. Michael Caine stars as John Tarrant, a steely MI6 agent whose young son is kidnapped by arms dealers demanding a ransom only a government agency can pay. But there's no help coming, no cavalry, just layers of betrayal, cold bureaucracy, and Tarrant's own desperation as he races to save his boy. Don Siegel directs with the unflinching focus of a surgeon. Every scene is loaded with suspense, and the action, when it comes, is quick and brutal. Caine's performance is all nerves and grit. This isn't a super spy with gadgets and wisecracks. It's a father pushed to the limit. The film takes its time, ratcheting up the tension with every dead end, every phone call, every friend who might actually be a foe. What really sets The Black Windmill apart is its sense of isolation. Tarrant is boxed in by enemies, both foreign and domestic. He can't trust anyone, not even his own bosses. The landscape is bleak, the soundtrack haunting, and the twists come hard and fast. You're left guessing right up to the final minutes, heart pounding and palms sweating. Why didn't this one get its due? Maybe it was too downbeat, too honest about the loneliness of real danger. Or maybe audiences wanted their spies with a little more glitz. But for those who love their thrillers ice cold and loaded with suspense, The Black Windmill is a treasure waiting to be found. The Hit, 1984. When you think of a gangster movie, you probably picture smoky back rooms and city streets. The Hit throws that idea straight out the window. This is a sun-drenched Spanish road movie that's as philosophical as it is deadly. Terrence Stamp is Willie Parker, a former mobster who turned informant and vanished into exile, until two hitmen, played by John Hurt and a young, unpredictable Tim Roth, show up to settle old scores. Director Stephen Frears crafts the film like a long, strange dream, part chase, part meditation on fate, and all tension. The Spanish countryside is gorgeous, but the mood is anything but relaxed. Every mile brings new dangers, new alliances, and new betrayals. Stamp plays Parker as almost eerily calm, a man who's accepted his fate but can't help pushing his luck. John Hurt's hitman is quietly terrifying, cold, efficient, yet strangely vulnerable. What makes The Hit so unforgettable isn't just the suspense, it's the way it questions the rules of the crime genre itself. Who's really in control? What does revenge actually cost? The violence is quick, shocking, and never glorified. You're left with more questions than answers, and that's exactly the point. Why did this masterpiece slip under the radar? Maybe it was too weird, too talky, or too unwilling to let anyone, audience or character, get comfortable. But for those willing to go along for the ride, The Hit is proof that the most dangerous journeys don't always end where you expect. Dead Man's Shoes, 2004. You want modern British crime? Dead Man's Shoes delivers it with a steel-toed boot. Shane Meadows' revenge thriller swaps big city glamour for the bleak, wind-whipped towns of the Midlands, where everyone knows everyone, and no secret stays buried. Paddy Considine is Richard, a soldier back from service, haunted and unflinching, determined to make the men who tormented his vulnerable brother pay, one by one. This isn't a story about justice, it's a story about pain, guilt, and the way violence poisons everyone it touches. The film is shot with a documentary-like realism. Every punch, every threat, every desperate confession lands hard. Considine is a force of nature, calm one moment and explosive the next, but the film never lets you lose sight of his heartbreak. The supporting cast, most of them non-professional actors, make the story feel dangerously real, as if you could stumble into these people in any small English town. What sets Dead Man's Shoes apart is its honesty. There's no easy catharsis, no slick villain to root against. As Richard closes in on his targets, the lines between right and wrong blur until you're left questioning every instinct. The violence is brutal, but it's the emotional fallout that leaves the biggest scar. Why isn't this film mentioned in the same breath as other British crime giants? Maybe it cuts too close, or maybe audiences weren't ready for something this raw. But for those willing to stare straight into the abyss, Dead Man's Shoes is a crime story that lingers long after the credits fade. So, which of these British shockers are you adding to your watch list? The truth is, the best crime thrillers don't always play by the rules, or even get their due. Did I leave out a hidden gem you swear by? Drop your favorites in the comments, smash that subscribe button for more unsung classics, and share this list with anyone still stuck on the same old heist films. British crime is darker, wilder, and way more unpredictable than you ever imagined.